Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a community in Floyd County is heartbroken after the loss of its long-standing mayor who served her city with a friendly face. And Knott County mourns the loss of a man who spent his life serving as county attorney and judge, spreading the love of God through music.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Keaton Hall. The time is 4:33 on this Friday morning. A little bit of rain out there right now, kind of a little drizzly when I walked out the door. I had to grab the jacket. How's it looking, Brandon?
I believe we're both struggling this morning, Keaton. I mean,
yeah.
It's just one of those days that's just dreary, and it's just.
It messes with your head when it's raining, and it's cold.
Exactly. And remember, just a couple of days ago, we had a spot reach 90 degrees. And now this morning we're in the 40s. So
crazy.
What a difference a couple of days can make. And again, the rain's still falling across parts of the region. Let's take a look at that. I'll take you on a tour on Live Pinpoint Doppler radar. Let's start in the east, back over toward Pikeville this morning. You can see a heavy band of rain basically going through parts of Mingo and Logan counties, coming through Pike, Floyd, Knott, over into Breathitt and Perry counties, scooting over maybe just a little bit into Letcher County there on the north end. You go on down the road a little bit. We head on over to Clay and Leslie counties, over toward Laurel and Knox counties, Whitley County, Pulaski County, and McCreary County. Also seeing some pretty good rain over toward Wayne County as well. So again, just be careful out there. It's kind of riding along, just along or just south of the Mountain Park, no, I keep wanting to say Mountain Parkway, the Hal Rogers Parkway Highway 80 corridor this morning. So just give yourself plenty of time. A few sensors out this morning may have lost some power or some quick data readings, but the warmest spots in the region are actually in Southwest Virginia. Grundy and Jonesville in the 50s, along with Harlan and Middlesboro. Everybody else is in the 40s this morning, and I think we'll stay pretty chilly today thanks to the rain chances. We should get up into the mid-50s a little bit later on. Keaton?
All right, thank you, Brandon. One community in Floyd County is mourning the loss of a friend, a neighbor, and its long-standing mayor. WYMT's Jordan Mullins has more about the life of Sharon Woods and the legacy she leaves behind.
70-year-old Sharon Woods died at her home on Wednesday, leaving behind a host of family and friends.
Let me tell you, Sharon Woods was one of a kind. There was no other like her. Everybody that knew her loved her. She was tougher than a pine knot. She was funny as a monkey.
Woods was the mayor of the city of Allen, a position she held for nearly 30 years, leading her community through the good and the bad.
When she was initially appointed mayor, most of the terms thereafter, for 28 years, she was unopposed. The city struggled at times to even survive, and Sharon absolutely was committed to being sure that city did not go out, did not go defunct.
Woods also served as a secretary and administrative assistant for Keith Bartley at the Floyd County Attorney's Office for nearly 20 years.
We worked together every single day, and the people in our county attorney's office really got to be family. We often will say it's our county attorney family, but the truth of the matter is, limiting that is not fair. The truth of the matter is, we're family.
Adding that Woods' dedication to friends, family, and her community was unmatched.
Every single day of her life, she did something for somebody else. There ain't a whole lot of people in this world like that. You know what? This world's lacking in that territory, if you ask me, and we could use a lot more Sharon Woods.
A woman whose work will never be forgotten. In Floyd County, Jordan Mullins, WYMT Mountain News.
The visitation begins today at 2 p.m. and her funeral will be Saturday at 2 p.m. Both will be at the Hall Funeral Home in Martin. Former longtime Knott County Judge John Robert Morgan has died. He was also known to his loved ones as Bobby. His family says he died April 1st. Morgan was elected Knott County Attorney in 1965, became District Judge in 1978 and Circuit Judge in 1984. He served as Circuit Judge until a car crash in 2004. He was also heavily involved in the community and First Baptist Church of Hyman, where he played the piano and organ for more than 30 years. Hyman Funeral Services are handling the arrangements, but services are expected to be held next week. John Robert Morgan was 85 years old. Tributes from across the state continue to pour into Pulaski County as the community mourns the loss of 17-year-old Andrew Dodson. Dodson died Monday after he was injured in a high school football practice game last Friday. His coach says the school will honor his memory by turning on the stadium lights tonight. Coaches throughout the region and even the state are following suit.
As I mentioned, our hearts and prayers are with them, with the family. I did talk to Coach Hines, and it's a terrible tragedy, and we're glad to just be a small part in honoring him tomorrow at 7:30.
The funeral for Andrew Dotson will take place at 11 o'clock this morning at the Center for Rural Development in Somerset. April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And the most recent report from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shows more than 3,500 people were killed nationwide in car crashes that involved distracted drivers in 2021. This is more than 30% higher than in 2020 when there were 91. AAA says distracted driving is not only an issue with teen drivers, and a phone is not the only type of distraction.
Set your navigation system before you head out. Make sure that you have your music set the way that you want it. We want to make any distraction behind the wheel just as socially unacceptable as drinking while driving.
Those with AAA say it's also important to note they believe distracted driving incidents are grossly underreported because it's hard for police to prove. Researchers at the University of Kentucky are testing a new combination of vaccines to help prevent infection with future COVID variants. The university is part of a national COVID-19 study testing a vaccine that's similar to the Moderna and Pfizer mRNA vaccines, but has an extra component. T cells are similar to antibodies, but antibodies don't last very long because the virus tends to mutate and levels drop over time.
Whereas the T cell component is like a Pac-Man and will digest the cells that are infected. So the infection has occurred, the T cells kick in and keep the host, the human, keeps us from getting severe illness.
Those involved with the study say if it all goes well, results will find this vaccine has longer durability, meaning people won't have to receive shots as often. Anyone interested in participating in the study can head to stopcovidky.com to complete a pre-screening survey and find out if they're eligible. With a simple heel prick, newborn screenings save thousands of lives each year, but those screenings vary widely. The things your baby is screened for depend on where you live. Last week, our national investigative team looked into this, and now Garrett Weimer takes a look at what exactly Kentucky screens for.
The recommended uniform screening panel is a national guideline for newborn screening. The RUSP contains 37 disorders that the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services recommends babies be screened for. But no state tests for all of them. Kentucky tests for 35. It does not test for these two conditions. Kentucky does test for a total of 59 different conditions. Some of them you may recognize: cystic fibrosis, hearing loss, sickle cell. Others, on the other hand, are more rare. The tests look for conditions that might not be obvious at birth, but that can have devastating or deadly consequences. Those tests are run at labs like this one all across the country. The chairman of the advisory committee that submits RUSP recommendations for approval told our national investigative team, despite their best efforts, screening remains anything but uniform.
I would say that it's my intent, and the intent, I believe, of everyone on the committee, that all of the recommended conditions be implemented in every state. It's how to get there that becomes more difficult.
And to see that, look no further than the story of an Adair County family and their experience with cytomegalovirus. CMV was not on Kentucky's testing panel when Bella Strevel was born. She was diagnosed after being taken to the NICU at a different hospital. She went through a lot in her short life. She was non-mobile, non-verbal, legally blind, deaf, and had seizures.
I love that thing.
After Bella's death at the age of 3 in 2020, her parents lobbied for a state law in her memory to create targeted screening for CMV. It's a start, but they told our national investigative team they want every newborn in Kentucky screened for it, and they also hope to get it added to the RUSP.
We kind of feel like that RUSP is out there and it's kind of the magical ending, but we don't have a clue when that's going to happen. And so we fight on a state level until we can get there. You know, we don't know if that will ever come or how long it will take, and we can't wait.
Governor Beshear signed Bella's bill into law in 2022. It was an emotional ceremony on the 2nd anniversary of Bella's death. About 20,000 babies are born with it each year. It's potentially fatal, and yet only one state tests all newborns for it.
The Streevels say their next effort is to get some state funding attached to Bella's law to help with its implementation. Just ahead this morning, a co-founder and guitarist for Motley Crue decides to file a lawsuit against his own band due to some trouble while on tour.
And a couple more gloomy days are on the way before a dry Easter Sunday. That dry pattern will likely stick around for next week, too. I'll have the latest in about 3 minutes.